everybody, we have another Sims 4 speed build here today, and I'm taking my inspiration actually from a couple of places. The first one is James Turner, the Sim Supply. He did a build very similar to this, which I watched some time ago, and then I was flipping through a magazine just the other day, and I saw a really nice, gorgeous little rustic cabin sort of situated out over the water on a lake at the end of, now in Australia we would call them a jetty, you might call them a pier, or who knows. I look forward to hearing from you, for wherever you are, what you would call a wooden structure that juts out into a river or the ocean that people could fish from, or that possibly might lead to a structure that's built over the water. So this is going to be a little hunting lodge or a cabin situated in a wooded area. And at the moment what I'm doing is sizing up some rocks to make it look like it's built on top of a rock pile and not just hanging out over the ocean. And because all of the rocks are flat on the bottom, when we move them up from the ground, there's going to be gaps. So I'm filling and disguising some of those gaps with plants, and then covering the bottom of, this is a free-form swimming pool that I've used to represent a pond or a lake. And at the bottom of this swimming pool we're covering with grass, we're upsizing it so that it looks a bit seaweedy and a bit water plant type-ish. And we're going to, here you can see we're putting some plants above the water as well so that it looks like it's a natural sort of rocky outcrop. So what we basically are going to do is support the whole bottom layer with pillars and get rid of the walls. And I'm just having a look through all of the objects just to see, to give myself a little bit of a heads up basically, or at least put in my mind the things that are available for this type of build, for something that's a little bit rustic. And I apologise if you can hear a bell tinkling in the background. I do have a cat who thinks that she's helpful, and she's not. So we've just made the bottom of the pool look like grass, and I think it looks more like a natural lake. Like this, and again, every time I move around it kind of gives you a different view of the rocks, so I'm kind of filling in spaces as I go, along with building out the actual house itself. Now, trying to get the stairs was a bit of a challenge because I didn't want to have multiple levels. I just wanted to have stairs from the top to go down to the ground, so we eventually solved that by putting in another room, essentially, we managed to disguise it quite well. In the end, you can see I tried to make it as small as possible while still allowing those stairs to remain, because basically there has to be floor underneath those stairs or the stairs are no gojo. So we're filling out the bottom, hiding the pool itself, adding some plants, trying to get it to go across to be a walking space across. In the end, I just gave up and hid that little gap with plants. I'm not sure if your sim could step across it, but they could certainly fall in and drown, as Sims have been known to do in the past. Not that I would ever have done that to my Sims in the past, you understand. So now we're moving on to disguising the edges of the pool. Basically, the look that I'm trying to achieve is for the rocks to look random. So I've used different colours, different shapes. I haven't gone for, I love the colour black that the rocks come out in, but I haven't included that colour in these rocks because I wanted them to look really natural, and it's for the same reason I haven't included the really red ones. I've tried to mirror the colour of the rocks that you see in some of the places around them. So you can see there's a bit of a pond there. So we've tried to mimic that a little bit. And then I put out a bunch of them so that I could, rather than just spawning in one at a time, I could work on them. Some I make bigger, some I leave natural size, some I make a couple of steps bigger, some I make only one, some I make three. So I've tried to randomize them, I've tried to change their orientations so that we get a natural look. It looks like these rocks are scattered along the edge, and I do take a few out so that we can, and there you go, I've started to leave some gaps so that we can fill them with plants, because a lot of lakes and ponds, you wouldn't see the rocks, that would be plants that would be hanging over into the water and stuff. So my aim was to go for a really nice looking secluded small pond in a sort of a lightly wooded area. So perfect for a romantic getaway, perfect for a stress-free weekend away from the job or the family, perfect for, you know, a hunting or fishing trip, because your sim could fish here. Actually, I don't know if they can fish in pools anymore. It would probably have to be a lake. You know, but they certainly can swim, and you could, excuse me, always in the middle of it. You certainly could put in a diving board and a ladder, and they could swim. Although I do believe that certainly in The Sims 4 you don't need the ladder for them to get out. So gone are the days of putting your sim in there, removing the ladder and drowning them. Not that I would have ever done that, of course. So now I'm just going through sort of sprinkling trees around. You kind of have to balance the trees between wanting to decorate the area and blocking your view of the cabin itself. So, you know, so we made it lightly wooded, and now I'm putting in some plants. I had a lot of fun with that. I kind of again went with just a couple of colours, one colour in the wildflowers, some daisies which are white, then I went with some purple for some colour, just to pick up the kind of the tones into the water and the shades and the sort of the purple shadows in the rocks. And then I moved on to those gorgeous white daisies, which look quite natural and like they kind of grow wild. So you can, because of the shape of the clump of the flowers, I think, you know, by turning them in different directions, you can kind of look like they've drifted across and grown across an area. So I really like them. So. And then I think we finish out by bringing in some orange tones to mirror the beautiful gold and orange flowers that you can see around the edges. So I had a lot of fun decorating this. As you can see, it does, however, take up a lot of the funds. So if you need to cut back on some funds for your sim, then do, you know, cut out some of the more expensive ones, use something cheaper if you like, maybe swap out a few rocks for some of the cheaper plants, because, yeah, I mean, I love the look of it and I hope you do too, but the landscaping items can get quite expensive. And again, we're using the move object cheat to upsize them and move them around. And here we are, just putting some painting the grass, a little bit of dirt paint on them. It makes the rocks look like, gives them a bit of shadow, makes them look like they're real. You know, you would have soil in there. You wouldn't have grass growing underneath rocks and things like that. So it gives it just that little extra edge of realism, I think. And so, yeah, but it was a little bit of a challenge twisting in amongst the trees and, you know, making sure that you've got all of the bits that you need to get, because it does need to be consistent for it to have that natural look. You don't want it to be too dark. It doesn't need to be aligned. So you can see there that I've got a very, very soft brush and just the medium size round, and just sort of squiggled it about a bit. So here now we're moving on to the house. Now I kind of wrestled with this. I wanted a bit of an attic dormer window sort of thing on the top, but I didn't necessarily want a room up there. So I did fight once again, fight with the roofs again to try and get it to work out how my my vision saw it, how my mind's eye imagined it would look. So we did fight with it for a little bit for a while, and I think I quite like how it turned out in the end, which we're going to see in a minute. And that's it. We go down to a smaller type, and we just simply have the dormer bit there. It's really decorative. It doesn't do anything. It just looks pretty, and I certainly think it looks pretty. So yeah, I struggled a bit with thinking about what roof colours and wall colours too, because again, I wanted it to look rustic. I wanted it to look like maybe it had been made out of the trees that have been chopped down in the local area. And I think in the end we sort of did come up with something that just about fits that. I really like how it turned out. Totally useless chimney stack there. Don't judge me. It looks cute. Adds to the house, and of course some safety rails for those Sims that like to walk off the edges after they've had a few of the coconut juices from when they've been away on holidays. And it's a very simple interior. It's one room and then a bathroom, and that one room contains the bedroom, which holds a double bed, so you could have a couple of Sims holidaying here, or even as a house where they live. It's got the kitchen, it's got a dining area, it's got a little lounge room, and in the end I was quite happy with how it came up. I sort of went for a more masculine theme here with the blue, the darker blue and the chocolate coloured interior, but I don't think that makes it any less usable for a female or females Sims in general, because hey, I like blue, and I like blue and chocolate together, but I just kind of thought that like a hunting cabin type situation or secluded woods thing might have been built by a bloke, and it might be a little bit blokey in its interior design and its interior decoration. So got to have a big screen TV, because after all, while you're there you might be watching the big game. Now in Australia that'd be AFL. I guess in the US, would that be, what do you call it? Do you call it gridiron? Do you call it football? Can you really call it football when you run around with the ball in your arms? Maybe it's handball. Oh, I'm going to get some hate comments for that. So feel free to tell me about your football and what makes it so great. Do feel free to Google or YouTube search for Australian rules football and have a look what our style of footy is. And I'm just adding some decor items. You can see it's quite understated. We put a little screen in there so that it gives the bedroom area a little bit of privacy without totally walling it off from the rest of that and closing in that space. And I kind of also went with some a bunch of like books and files and things in a corner, so make it look like perhaps you might take some paperwork or some reading material up there for the weekend, perhaps magazines, perhaps it's just books, rather than an actual bookshelf. Now this is not designed to be a house for where people can live to do their skills. There's no skill except for cooking, I guess, there's no opportunity for skills or skill building here aside from what you can watch on the television or you're cooking in the kitchen. You could, of course, wander down to the lake next door and get some fishing in, and of course there's room if you wanted to take out you know, a couple of the kitchen benches and put like an easel or some an artist's easel or a chest table, or if perhaps you wanted to put a bookshelf on the walls or tuck it in one corner. I've just, you know, left it very, very untouched in that manner, so that this, as I said, it's not designed as a starter home. It's designed as perhaps somewhere for your Sims to hide out. And here you can see I'm putting the books in and really making it look like that somebody's dumped a bunch of books there so that they can do some paperwork while they're away, or do some reading, or perhaps even it might be a place for them to go on a retreat to do some study, perhaps. So, and here we are working in the bathroom. Again, we're still sticking with that blue and chocolate theme, but just to change it up a little bit, I've put some green towels in there, a bit of olive in there, and again we've put a little bit of decor items in there. The candles might not be so manly, but that's okay, because as I said, it doesn't have to be just a man's property. And some shirts, you know, because where else would you put them but in the bathroom? And yeah, we've tried to make it cute and look like, almost mirror what tiny house living would be. Is because I've told you already, I'm obsessed with tiny houses. I love the idea of being able to live your whole life almost in one room. I love the compact and the smart ways that people can use space. So I really, really like that, and I think it's really interesting, that use of space. Now, down here we've got a little bit of a clearing, so I thought we would turn it into a little bit of a barbecue and casual gathering area. So you can do a little bit of outdoor cooking, you can have, you know, a few friends around, or you know, you could certainly use it for a family outing if you had family members. Here I am putting a few lights in amongst the plants. Again, one of my favorite things. I love the look of plants, and even though you don't see it in this, I do put a bin in, but you don't see me put the letterbox in, but I assure you there is one there. And here we are coming up towards the screenshot. So here it is, our little cabin in the woods. Quite cute, lightly wooded. Our little picnic area. I think the lake looks lovely and natural there. It's really quite sweet. Close up of the dormer window. I think that came up nicely as well. Our kitchen with a little menu board in the corner. I'd be happy to cook there. The entry with some places to hang your coats and things. Lounge room with some tomato sauce on the coffee table and a couple of bottles of wine. And the view through into the bedroom, tucked behind that little screen. Really quite cute and quite cozy. I really like it. Another shot of the lounge room, shows you that stack of books there quite nicely. And there we are for the overview and the floor plan, which is very basic. It's one room with a bathroom divided off, and there you can see it there. So I hope you enjoyed our little cabin in the woods. So wherever you are today, whatever you're doing, have a good one.